All right, welcome everyone. We are glad to have you here today for our all hands on deck call. Appreciate seeing all the faces from all over the nation. It's good to have you all here. We have two awesome speakers here for us today, and I think you'll learn a lot from them and be able to engage with them. They're both open to questions, so if you want to throw those in the chat throughout, then Eric and I can help moderate that and get those questions answered for you. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Eric.
Fantastic. Again, like Carrie said, thank you so much, everybody, for making time in your schedule and showing up today. It is honestly great to see a lot of your faces and to come together. And as you guys know, our all hands on deck calls are done quarterly, and the goal of them is to spread the knowledge, spread the wealth, kind of encourage people, empower people to do different things. So please, if any of you have any ideas, any suggestions, anything that you think we should cover, please pop on. And if you actually have something that you want to cover, reach out to us and let us know, and let's talk. And let's get everybody on the same page. So today, just to get kind of right into it, we have asked for two professionals and actually two colleagues and two friends of ours to kind of give you their stories and kind of where they came from and how it evolved, in hopes to inspire you to look at maybe things differently in your community and gauge how you are doing things. Do they bring up new stuff and new ideas and move us in the right direction? Before we go to that, I also wanted to remind everybody it is grant season. Grants are getting ready to drop through the Department of Justice. And we as National DEC would be honored to partner and consider partnering with any and every one of you. We are very fortunate right now. We have had partnerships with PTTC, different counties like Lackawanna, the state of Tennessee, Massachusetts, the state of Michigan, and all sorts of things. And we are currently in one with our partners at the Kinnick Tribe and Bobby Lynn and them up in the state of Alaska. So if you guys have any desire and we could be of help, please let us know. We'd love to do that. But without further ado, I am going to kind of introduce both of them, and then I will let them take it from here. Our speakers today is Chuck Daugherty. I like to refer to him as Chuck D. The mystery is still out there of what is actually behind the beard, but we won't get into that conversation today. I have known Chuck for several years. Chuck is a board member for the National Alliance for Drug and Endangered Children. And while I'm on that topic, Tabitha, thank you for being here as well. Tabitha Curtis out of Tennessee is also a board member and is present on here today. But Chuck D has done a career in prevention type work. And Chuck D has recently retired from ACT, Missouri. He still holds his position on our National DEC board. But he's going to kind of give you kind of his story of how he kind of came through the different areas he came through, but also how it impacted him around the Drug and Endangered Children mission. And then the other person that I'd like to introduce going after him is going to be on this is Rebecca Savage. I call her Becky Savage. Becky Savage is the executive director and the founder of the 525 Foundation. I actually have had the honor of working with Becky Savage numerous times and have created a really good friendship, and am really impressed with the work that 525 Foundation and Becky has done throughout the country. Becky continues the work and partner the best we can with National DEC. And without further ado, Chuck D, I think you're going first, my friend. So I will pause myself and try to highlight you.
Thank you. Like Eric said, I'm Chuck Daugherty. I've spent nearly I have spent my entire career working in substance use prevention in one way or another. When I'm asked to describe myself, I always say that I'm a child advocate. Ever since I started working in college with youth, I was a child advocate. In college, I directed a drop-in center for runaway and homeless teens. And many of them were struggling with substance use issues, or parents who had substance issues they couldn't just stay with. So from early on, like, oh man, late 70s, early 80s, this was a population I was working with, and mostly just listening to, caring about, learning from, spending time with. And that's how we got through it. There wasn't any real protocols, any real treatment other than make people safe. After graduation, I worked in a residential group care for 8 adolescent boys. I was working with 8, my wife and I had 8 adolescent boys that were probably, the oldest one is like 3 years younger than us. So we were working with peers as well, essentially. That population is when long-term treatment was long-term. We would have kids for a year and a half or 2 years. When youth came to us, easily 75% of their parents were struggling with some kind of substance use issue. Many of the kids were, because that's what they saw. I would make, as a child advocate, I would say these kids need help when they go on to long-term care or some kind of longer-term care for help, or a foster system. I would find out then that people weren't addressing it. I would make these great recommendations, have these great issues. They would go into a different level of care. And if the disease, the problem didn't raise its head, it was never addressed. And I could not help that. I went back to school and got licensed in Kansas to be a substance abuse counselor. So at least my reports have a little more weight. And when that happened, that made the residential treatment center, residential group home that I was in, the drug house. And so I got all the kids that were having issues. And I say this joke that those are some of my favorite kids. They're clever, they're smart, they know what's going on, they've got sense of humor. They were good kids to work with, and not everyone agreed, but that was my chosen population. They were fun. And I knew what they were going through. I understood them. So I did that for a number of years, started to make a difference in Kansas. Kids were actually being given services after they left my home. They were learning how to self-advocate. They were doing all of the right things to go to the right meetings, to take care of themselves when they were in situations they couldn't control before. And also they were much older than they were when we first got them. Eventually I moved to Texas and worked at the Greater Dallas Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse in their youth prevention programming. And again, working with a lot of youth, until one day the National DEC came to Texas, presented in Texas at a conference. I went there with one of my friends who worked at the council as well. And just sitting through that 3-day conference, it was amazing. These are my kids, and how do we work with them? And National DEC, Lori Moriarty trained us. She had the protocol, she had the steps, she knew what to do. It was like, I knew that I could make a difference, and I connect to the right folks. So when my colleague, Allison, and I went back, we put together some training in Dallas County and around the Metroplex area, and got trained to do trainings. We went to training, became trainers, become DEC trainers, developed the Dallas County Alliance for Drug Addicted Children, did a lot of great work in Dallas County, hooked up with the Texas Alliance, primarily with Betty Ford Center. And they had a lot of cool stuff to do to make that referral on to kids that we were working with. They knew what to do with them, and the kids started thriving. Part of what we did in the early days in the 80s, middle 80s, was worked a whole lot with the 6 CSAP strategies. The main one that we did in our coalition meetings was the community-based process. Community-based process was working with other coalitions, police officers, civic groups, business groups, the whole works had to decide to work together, much like our collaborations today. It was just called differently. So Alice and I got really involved in that to the point that we would go with folks from the Betty Ford Center. And when policemen, this is time when DEC was mostly doing removing kids from meth houses and methamphetamine labs. So this was real early on, and that was the focus. But we would go in, and as the police were breaking down the lab and busting the lab, the social workers and the counselors would be able to go in and help with the youth, the kids, and carry them out, support them, all the stuff that we needed to do to take care of them. And we would talk about, in my head, it just stands out tight, that we had kids that were 18 months old, that were 2 years old, that we were taking out of those houses after the police had busted in, after they had their SWAT suits on, yelling, screaming, the little loud noises, you got the concussion bombs. They would come to us and cuddle us and hold us. It's like, that's not right. These aren't good kids. That's not a good thing that they're coming to us. They should be scared and crying and going to their moms and not wanting me. So I'm showing up with the scary guys. So we started looking at that more, and we were seeing that across the United States, that's not developmentally appropriate. Those kids should not have been doing that. But we didn't know anything better. Again, it was still early on in the field. No one was actually training anyone on developmental stages and what an 18-month should be feeling like when the police burst in and arrest mom and dad. And I think that was a sign of also how much trauma they'd already lived in their life, that they could just put up with anything and go to anyone that extended their hands to it. We get those kids decontaminated. Those little fellows would go to the hospital, get checked out, and then go on to foster care. And we tried to help foster parents, get them into treatment, get them into medical stuff, make sure their blood work was good, and test all that stuff. And sadly, that's a lot of times I think where it stopped. But we were doing a good job. We were helping our communities. We were getting rid of meth houses, meth homes, and the kids that were there, we were identifying and getting some help for, and had a lot of community support. I could go to the Women's League, any of those groups, Junior League, do a presentation, talk about the horrors that we see, the lives of these kids, and could raise all kinds of money. Could raise all kinds of truckloads of teddy bears to give them, because at that time they had to leave all their stuff in their house because they didn't know what was contaminated. And everyone was able to pat themselves on the back, and everyone's done a good job. We had this many kids out, Junior League, this many teddy bears, we gave to the police. It was all good stuff. And we were proud of that. At some point then, National DEC took the lead and said, yeah, that's great. But as meth homes are stopping meth labs, we still have a bunch of kids out there that are drug endangered from their parents' substance use. It may not be as big as meth. It may not be as sensational. But we've got those kids that our parents are picking them up after they spent the day at the bar. Go to the babysitter, pick them up, and drive them home. Those kids are drug endangered. So we kind of changed, National DEC and affiliates changed the way we saw things and started doing drug endangered children as more than just meth. It was anything that might affect the parent's ability to parent. And excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. Just a second. Sorry about that. So about anything that was affecting kids, we were starting to look at and pay attention to, and our protocols were more than just who's going to work with who. Protocols are actually how we're going to follow that youth through the trajectory of their lives and make their lives better. And that was great. We loved that. and started making a difference in Texas. I came to Missouri via the University of Oklahoma and started working as a liaison in Missouri. Eventually got hired to be the executive director of ACT Missouri. And I don't know if it was luck or serendipity, whatever it was. A week after I got to ACT Missouri, the Department of Mental Health in Missouri brought in some folks to do a DEC presentation because they wanted to get on aboard DEC and then start working with drug endangered children. I went. I've been working with drug endangered at that point probably 12 or 14 years. It was in my blood. It was where my youth advocacy worked the best at, working with the little children that had problems, as all the way up to teenagers that could identify what was going on with them. So actors were involved. We became the state affiliate and had several DEC programs beneath us. I was still a trainer. Still working some protocols. And as we were doing that, ACT Missouri got a grant for the Region 7 Prevention Technology Transfer Center. And one of our first jobs as a special group was drug endangered children that we chose to work with. So we got more involved in a 4-state area working with drug endangered children, doing trainings, sponsoring DEC academies, started DEC academies in our state and all the 4 states we work with. Steve Miller's on this call. He's been a huge part of that. He understands it. He was in some of the original DEC meetings and now is supporting it across the 4-state area. And he is amazing to do the DEC stuff that he's doing. So that's how I got involved in DEC and my life as an advocate. These kids were always kids I knew, I understood, I got them. And then, man, 2 years ago, I was in a DEC Academy meeting and we were chatting, just talking like we do. And someone on there who was a younger fella, probably mid-20s, said that he was a drug endangered children and started talking about it. And as he's talking, I'm having just a huge epiphany. And it's kind of like those cartoons or the movies where people the calendar starts flowing backwards. And I'm seeing all this stuff. And at that time, I realized I'm a drug endangered child too, and didn't identify it until I was so old. It was amazing how everything started clicking, that this was my population. I could work with them. They knew me. I trusted me. And it all went together. My personal life, I grew up, my dad had the only liquor store in our county, and it was the furthest liquor store east of Colorado. So we were the last liquor store east that got Coors beer. That's how long ago it was. My prevention messages growing up from a liquor store owner's dad was, if you get in trouble, we lose our license, you lose your car, you lose your fancy jeans. They were 501s. But it was like, that was my prevention message, was don't get in trouble. It wasn't anything about health. It wasn't anything about taking care of your body, taking care of yourself. It was all monetary. In hindsight, parents were really involved in substance use, alcohol use. My aunt would sometimes pick me up when I was a little kid and babysit me. And we would go to the Dewdrop Inn, true place. And I'd sit at the bar and drink sodas and eat eggs, pickled eggs, for meals. And nothing wrong with that. No one in my life saw a problem with that. So it's that kind of stuff throughout. And all this stuff's coming back to me. It's like, that's why I'm a drug endangered children. The good news is, growing up, as my calendar's going backwards, I had a lot of folks taking care of me. A lot of caring, concerned adults that supported me, that I don't know if they really understood what was going on, but they knew that I needed something. a coach that would take me out for burgers before he took me home, just because I needed to eat. Teachers that would call me aside and let me do special stuff so I didn't have to go home. Had a lot of those really special folks that at the time I had no idea that they knew what was going on. I just thought they were nice to me, but they were the folks that really raised me, that gave me my sense of hope and morals and the right thing to do, and it worked. Given my background, there is absolutely no reason that I should have retired early from a substance use prevention agency where I've spent the majority of my life working with these kids. But it worked. There is hope. And I plan to support National Alliance for Drug Addiction as long as I can, any way I can. And if there's anything I can do with any of y'all, let me know. And I realized that was a pretty brief description and very fast. I'll answer any questions you've got. And if I can do anything to help anyone or any youth that you work with, let me know, because I am there for them, because whether I knew it or not, I was there. I lived it. Questions?
Chuck D, I love these. I love these storytelling type things. And out of this, I wrote down some stuff that I would like to ask you with briefly. You brought up numerous things that I thought was very enlightening and engaging and stuff. And the one thing that I wrote down is, can you briefly tell us, you brought up intervention numerous times in your thing. Tell us and tell the people on here the importance of that intervention, and what's intervention look like? What when you talk about that? And I don't need some big answer, but you brought up intervention a ton. What is the importance around that early intervention?
Personally, for me, the early intervention that caring concerned adults were doing was, it gave me a place to go. They didn't assign me to therapy. They didn't say, do this. They just spent time with me. Was the best intervention I could have had at that time, when there was no science around. There was no science. There was no protocol. Interventions I've done with youth that I've worked with have been to listen to them, to say, we can help you. We know what to do. If you want help, and you've come to me, so I think you do. And start them on that road to self-advocacy, that road to saying, no, this isn't right. It doesn't feel good. I don't like it. How can I make changes? So intervention can be anything, but mostly it just involves someone who cares and that you trust and that you can work with. Sorry.
So what I'm hearing out of you is, you probably don't know very many of the people personally, maybe a few on this call. How many of these professionals can play an intervention role?
100%.
Exactly. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
The other thing that I heard, no, go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead.
The other thing that I heard you say, and it's kind of cool because Jerry Moe is on here as well. You brought up the Betty Ford Center, and you brought up things. And one thing that we really preach when we talk about National DEC is connections, collaboration, working together. You can't do this alone. We work in our silos way too much. Talk to us about the importance, not just of Betty Ford, but you're the one who brought that one up, but the importance of having those collaboratives, the people to work together, because this can't be a siloed mission.
It can't be. Up until and the reason I wrote Betty Ford Center is because they do excellent work, but also I never had that kind of a collaborator until I got to Texas. We talked about, I talked about the 6C strategies and the community-based process. In the olden days that first came up, community-based process was measured by, we'd all get in a room together and we'd pass around our contracts and say, we'd share with you. It's like an MOU. And that was the extent of it. And if you had someone, you'd call and say, can you help me with this? And if you could, if they would trust you and you would trust them, maybe you make something happen. Betty Ford in Texas, when I first got involved with drug addiction, they were truly the collaborators. They treated kids for free. They would work with all the kids that we could refer. They were amazing. And that was the collaboration. And that taught me what collaboration was. And since then, I've tried to do that with everything we could. Oftentimes, we would get people that Sorry, I got distracted by the chat. We
That's
worked
why you
with
shut that off, Chuck.
we worked with folks, and truly, I wanted to help out the youth, regardless of what was in it for me, what was in it for our agency. We just did help the youth, and we did a lot of training on that and treating on that in Missouri. People didn't understand drug endangered children. One of the things being we would have other agencies, social service agencies, county agencies, not truly understand and maybe didn't want to understand. I can say that as I'm retired, what drug endangered children were.
Absolutely.
We had social workers talking about that the child wasn't a drug endangered child because mom only used heroin when the child's with the dad on the weekends. She wasn't causing problems with the kid. She didn't have any problems supervising. And we all know that's just not true. That's a lot of the myths we had to bust, and a lot of the adult interventions we had to do, the adult education, the adult advocacy of like, yeah, that ain't right.
Right.
It goes both with kids and with adults.
I love that. And I just want to share, I know many of you could see this. Chris Rankin, who I know, put in the chat, I know I have learned throughout my career in life that it is early intervention that often makes the largest difference in drug endangered children. The other is that anyone can provide that intervention. Absolutely. And that's what we're hearing. Both you and Chris have a long-term career in the prevention intervention type field, and I absolutely agree. Chuck, I'm going to see if Carrie has a question, and if not, I'm going to then kind of switch over, but if you could stick around till the end, that'd be great, my friend.
Yeah.
My question for you, Chuck, you did a lot of work in group homes initially. How could our DEC alliances maybe collaborate better with group homes?
Ooh, that's a tough question, Carrie. I think if the DEC alliance is there, actively talk to the folks running the group home. They may not know the services out there. They may not know the supports out there, the programs out there. While
Perfect.
every group home probably has their own treatment protocol, DEC alliances can easily fit into that and could work that, and could, if nothing else, the local DEC authority, DEC alliance, could maybe let the family teachers, the family people, family therapists know who were the educated folks who we need to get therapy, to give therapy from, who were the people that understood the DEC model, and could give that kind of education and support to kids and the parents.
I love that.
It's fully, if it's identified and not ignored, fully 75% to 90% of the kids are DEC children and experiencing substance use themselves. And the two probably go together 90% of the time, 100% of the time.
I would agree. So Jerry Moe, I believe it's Jerry Moe, put in there, the more resources I'm aware of for youth and families, the more intervention strategies I have in my toolbox. Absolutely, Jerry.
Absolutely, yes.
Well said, and you are definitely you are correct. So
I
Chuck
wish I
D.
said it.
Yep. Unless Chuck, this is from Showtime. Spencer, also known as Showtime to me. Chuck, I am curious if you noted any differences in drug endangered children in the 80s or 70s, 80s, and perhaps drug endangered children more recently. Do you mean any differences, Spencer? If you can come off mute, buddy, more being affected, difference in how can you explain the difference, sir? What you're talking about?
Sure, that was a really general question, but I guess more what I was thinking is, we're talking about drug endangered children, and that children live in environments affected by substances that people may not have thought about beforehand. For example, alcohol. Are these effects, were those pretty true in the 70s, 80s? Of course, I know we have like fentanyl, the proliferation of a lot more substances now, but have those effects generally always been the same on children? I guess is what I'm asking. That we see for a drug endangered child, that generational trauma, those types of things.
Yep. Perfect. Thanks,
Probably,
Spencer.
I would say yes. We didn't start looking at trauma in the 70s and 80s. I mean, we didn't discuss it. We knew it was there. But yeah, the effects have always been the same. Parents
I love
who
it.
use
Yeah.
substances aren't able to parent their kids. And I think that's the same. When you talk about severity or drama involved in them or what kind of stuff's going on, but yeah, you're just not able to parent when you're not all there. Whether it's meth, alcohol, fentanyl, or Ambien, you can't parent.
Absolutely. Perfect. Good question, Spencer. And Alan Burnett, who is very well versed on this, says yes, it absolutely does, and it's stayed the same. It's always been. It's just whether it's been highlighted or not. Chuck, I don't see any other questions in here. I'm going to take away your spotlight. So you had your 20 minutes in the spotlight, so you are no longer in the spotlight, my friend. But as we get ready to transition on to Becky Savage, I do want to bring up Alan. Thanks so much, buddy, for pointing it out. If you guys didn't know and you see our backgrounds, these backgrounds actually came out of the National DEC conference that just happened in Kansas City, Missouri. And our colleague Stacy Reed challenged the audience to write a name of a drug endangered child that you have dealt with, might know, on a hand, and that was handed out. And then we put this up on the board behind us as like a backdrop. And I have to tell you, Stacy was really worried about putting this out there, didn't know the response that she would get. And I would tell you, after one session, we had thousands of hands that people had wrote down on. And it was a big enough impact for us and for the attendees that were at the national conference that we decided to have Chuck D actually take a photo of it and capture it as our background. So Alan, thanks so much for pointing that out. And that's kind of the story behind that. So moving on, my good friend Becky Savage, we are going to turn it over to you. You definitely come out of this at this from a little bit different approach. You didn't get into this in the early stages of your life because if I remember correctly, you are a nurse, right?
I am. Yes.
And your impact was different. And I won't share your story. I'll let you kind of say that, but your impact was big. And just so you know, the dog's sneaking in.
Yeah, that's the nice dog. So
Okay.
that's okay. So thanks for the introduction, Eric and Chuck. I don't know. I hope I can compare with what you presented. It was a very nice presentation. Very eye-opening. But my name is Becky Savage, and I am from South Bend, Indiana. And like Eric said, I am coming into this completely different. I've been a nurse for about 31 years. Practiced nursing for many years, was the director of nursing and long-term care facility for many years. And I'm a wife. I've been a wife for 30 years, the mother of a few adorable dogs that are behind me. But my biggest triumph, I guess, would be to say that I'm the mother of 4 beautiful boys. 8 years ago, I lost my 2 older sons, Nick and Jack, related to substance misuse, experimentation. My older 2 sons, Nick was 19 and Jack was 18. And they were at graduation parties with friends. Somebody brought a bottle of prescription pills, or it's what they thought it was, prescription pills. And a group of kids were experimenting with these medications, mixing with alcohol. Underage drinking was allowed at this party. And the next morning, my 2 older sons didn't wake up. So to say that is earth-shattering when you realize, that you've lost your 2 older sons, but to say the words when people ask how they passed away, and the first time the word overdose comes out of your mouth, it's something you nearly choke on. It was something that I taught in a nursing program. I worked with younger kids in our community thought I knew what was out there, what was going on, and actually had conversations with my kids. But what I didn't know was prescription drug misuse and how it was trending in not only our communities 8 years ago, but in other communities. And it was that one conversation that I didn't know and didn't know to have that ultimately cost my two older sons their life. So like Eric said, I'm coming into the realm of prevention a little bit differently. Even though my work as a nurse, I was doing prevention work. It's different. I'm taking a look at it from this other aspect of things. Eric and I met. We kind of, I don't even know how we met, Eric, but we met, I think through a conference or something maybe, and just started telling stories and talking about the work that I do now. I travel across the country and I speak to communities and I speak to students and talk about what's out there and the story of Nick and Jack and different things like that. But what I realized after talking with Eric is that not only were my two younger kids drug endangered children because of the the experimentation, the deaths of their two older brothers, but also my two older sons were drug endangered children, and I didn't even know that. And that really hit me because our community, like I was telling Eric, after this happened to our family, my husband and I were called into the police station. And I remember barely able to, form a thought, but sitting there and having the detective tell us their cause of death, which was an opioid overdose. And, it was kind of just matter of fact, yeah, kids are doing this, now they're, experimenting with drugs and prescription drugs. And I'm like, I had no idea, like, how is this something that kids are doing? And I'm like, why aren't we talking about this? Why is this not something that's being discussed? Why is it a big secret? And with my travels across the country, I'm finding out that there are drug endangered kids everywhere because our communities that I'm speaking in are not talking about what's happening out there. I still come across kids when I talk that don't even know what fentanyl is. And we think we hear about it every day. And we're thinking, oh, everybody should know what fentanyl is. There are still people in communities across our country that don't know what fentanyl is. They don't know, about the dangers of experimenting with, taking somebody else's prescription medications. They don't know. There's just such a knowledge gap, and that knowledge gap is endangering our children and communities across our country.
Becky, if I can just stop you real quick, I know you got a lot. You, in your situation, in your story, is the prime example, and why a lot of us, and I've heard it come out of one of our board members as well, Tabitha Curtis. We talk about parental caregiver substance misuse impacting our children and our families, but we have now switched that to its parental caregivers and communities substance abuse and misuse that's impacting our communities. And you were an impact on that. You've seen that, and that is a message I think we have to get out there. This isn't just about caregivers and parents and all that. It's that community acceptance and trying to change that. And I'll be honest, you have been a hero in that effort, and I appreciate that. But I just wanted everybody to know that you've been very big on helping change that perspective in community. So please continue, my friend.
No, I appreciate that. I often see in different communities, we always, it seems like communities are focusing on one area of kids that they think are the ones that are affected, one neighborhood or one area. And truly, that's stigma. When we just start focusing on one area, we need to start focusing on every area, every community, every neighborhood, every school. I talk in communities, and it's amazing that I can be 2 miles and speaking at one school, and they'll reach out to a school, 2 miles away saying, Becky Savage will be in town. Do you want her to come speak here? No, we don't have a problem. And it's the stigma that, you know, that knowledge gap is a problem. And, you know, and to me, that's a problem that needs to be addressed. And these DEC alliances can do that. They can help fill that knowledge gap in their communities and talk about issues. You know, we talk about a lot of the work that we do, and I know that DEC, you know, you guys work to address substance misuse affecting children and families and communities, and that's what, you know, a lot of these other organizations and alliances are doing, you know, and working together towards that can help with that. You know, one thing that we do is we get involved with our Drug Take Back Day, which I know every community across the country, twice a year, the DEA really promotes their DEA National Take Back Day. And it's always in April and it's always in October. And, you know, those are things that I go into communities and they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. Like, what are we talking about? So getting involved with that, trying to get those unused prescription medications out of people's home, educating people on why it's important to properly store medications. So it's not sitting out on your countertop. You know, homes across the country have medications just sitting out, laying there. It's just like having a loaded gun laying on your countertop. You know, one pill can kill. And, you know, just really pushing those messaging, I think, is so important.
I like that. And Becky, you're involved with a lot of organizations. I love that you go into the schools. You actually hold a conference every year in South Bend, Indiana area, which has been unheard of in that area. That I got to be honest, you have brought us and stuff. DEC Alliance is starting to form within South Bend where we didn't have any of that before in rural communities. But I think this is a good time for you to talk about the amazing work. You work with DEA on a regular basis, the work that you do in these communities and stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. You know, it's just, we talk a lot about, you know, the squeaky wheel, the squeaky wheel, the squeaky wheel. And I never thought in my life I'd be that squeaky wheel or wanted to be that squeaky wheel. But sometimes that squeaky wheel does, the voice does get heard. And, you know, just, we did not have, you know, we talk about prevention a lot in our areas and we have coalitions that are talking about it, but where do we go learn about prevention? So that's why let's hold a conference here. Let's start bringing nationally well-known speakers and trainers to our community to train our community so that we can impact our community. And it was incredible because we had law enforcement that showed up. We had first responders who showed up, counselors who showed up, teachers who showed up, parents who showed up, medical professionals that showed up. And it wasn't just from our small community in South Bend, it was from across the state of Indiana, Michigan. We had people from Chicago. And that to me was so incredible to see because people want to learn what can they do in their community to make a difference and make an impact to help keep their communities safe. And, you know, that's just one small thing. Talking about it, you know, we know that storytelling is evidence informed, is what it's classified as. But storytelling, we know if we can talk to youth, parents, and pull at their heartstrings, we know they're going to remember something. And it was an example I gave earlier today. You know, that I told you I heard Tony Robbins gave a talk, and he said, you know, storytelling is a direct connection from your heart to your brain. If you can pull on those heartstrings, you can get them to remember some things. And his example was 9/11. We all remember where we were at on 9/11. And, you know, we're all like, yes, exactly. Do you guys all remember where you were at on September 10th, the day before? And we don't. It's because that day and those stories we heard pulled on our heartstrings. And it, you know, we remember that. And that's what I do when I go into the schools. I try to tell the story of Nick and Jeb, show pictures of Nick and Jeb, show video of their friends, you know, and how it impacted their lives, you know, and trying to make a difference with those kids so that their choices are better choices.
But Becky, the storytelling that you do isn't always that scare tactics storytelling.
No.
You tell a real life story. You also provide us hope. You are hope. And I mean that. I've told you that from the day I met you. You are hope because you are one person impacting the United States and our communities. If you can maybe give a little bit, and we're running a little bit tight on time, but if you can give us that hope, right? Because you went through tragedy and we have talked about this, but you bring hope, and hope is really that key that we can do better.
Sure. Well, I remember the day vividly. I was flipping mindlessly through social media, and I came across this quote from Barbara Bush, and it said, I can't remember exactly, but something to the effect that the death of a child is so heartbreaking that she never thought she could recover from that. But knowing that and realizing that helping somebody else could help her heal is what got her through the death of a child. And I remember thinking, aha. I mean, I literally would have the excuse to be sitting in a corner, banging my head against the wall and drooling on myself. But I realized I can't change the outcome. I cannot ever, no matter whatever is said or done, can ever bring Nick and Jack back. But I can make a better life for my other two boys that I still have here. And I can make a difference in the name of Nick and Jack and save somebody else from going through this tragedy that we've gone through. And that's just what we started doing. We formed the 525 Foundation, which is Nick and Jack's hockey numbers. They loved hockey, and Jack was number 5 and Nick was number 25. And we just use our story to empower kids and communities to make better choices and better decisions and to live happy and healthier lives.
You are such a phenomenal individual, my friend. You do great work. I do want to leave a little bit of time. Do you have more, Becky, that you want to cover?
No, I'm good.
I do want to leave a little bit of time if anybody has questions for Becky. Becky is doing a lot of great, like I said, she brought in people that had never thought to come together before in the South Bend area in the Indiana. So Tabitha, please, my friend.
Becky, I don't know that I have a question, but I want to thank you for sharing your story and your son's story today and your insight that you have. This is something Eric alluded to just a minute ago about all children are drug endangered children. And that is the focus that we're having in the state of Tennessee right now, is that we're addressing all children as drug endangered children, not just the children living in those home environments. And we're trying to reduce that stigma for those children. But, for what risk and how much risk, as in our drug endangered children training, is going to vary for those kids that are living in that environment. So thank you for sharing that. And
thank you.
Definitely prevention is the way to go. I know Chuck comes from that background as well as like I do. And thank you for saying that. And I would encourage you to find, substance abuse prevention coalitions and try to partner with them. You have outstanding work that you're doing. And again, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. And thank you for the work that you do as well.
Becky, remind me, Tabitha is somebody I'd like to introduce you to, get you hooked up with on some stuff that's happening in the great state of Tennessee. So anybody else have any questions for Becky? She's an open book, man. Ask away. She took it on. I mean, she took on a mission, and from the grassroots, nothing was started there. And she's creating a path for the work down in the Indiana area. All right, Becky, looks like you're going to be let off the hook here.
All right, perfect.
All
Becky,
right.
this is Nathan Ray. I'm from Kokomo, Indiana. I live in Tennessee now, but I just wanted to say thank you for the work that you're doing in the great state of Indiana. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you, Nathan.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. All right. Carrie, I think we have a few slides that we want to show real quick, and then we'll come back off those and whatever. Do you want to explain these?
So this is just a slide about Becky's contact information, and you can scan the QR code there to get right to her website, the 525 Foundation. You have her information. And if you think of her later and you don't have this slide in front of you, let us know and we can connect you with her. And then I just pulled a couple of quotes from both Chuck and Becky today, just to kind of help you guys know you're making a difference. The work that you're doing in DEC Alliances, you're not always seeing that, but Chuck said, supportive adults make a difference. They provide hope to the child. And a lot of the adults in Chuck's life probably don't even know that they provided that hope to him. So the things that you're doing now are making a difference. So just remembering that. And then Becky also said that DEC Alliances help fill that knowledge gap. So again, you're helping professionals, you're helping the community know that there's something that they're missing and you can help fill that void. So the work you're doing is definitely making a difference. Just a reminder about our website. You can scan that QR code to get to us and contact us for any help that we might be able to provide you. And as Eric mentioned earlier, any grant help that might come up here in the next couple of weeks.
Perfect. Carrie, I got a couple things I'd like to highlight here real quick if we quit sharing those screens with all of you and then open it up for questions. I want to first highlight that I said earlier, Bobby, before you have to run, I know you got another meeting you got to go to. National DEC was honored to get a no JJDP grant that we have had. It's in partnership with the Connect tribe based in the Matsu Valley in Alaska. We are working at Bobby and Jessica, and the focus of this grant is combining OFR and drug endangered children. So Opioid Fatality Review Board and drug endangered children. The goal is to attach the Opioid Fatality Review Board to the Drug Endangered Children Alliance, the mission that's already established, because oftentimes when we do opioid fatality reviews, the last ones again, and it drives me nuts, is last ones we consider are the children being impacted. We have these fatalities and we're lucky enough that working with Bobby and the Connect tribe is we are lucky enough that they have agreed to, we have switched our focus not only to opioid fatality reviews, we are going to do opioid fatality and non-fatal overdose reviews and the impact on children, because we want to go back and look at the kids that are experiencing these traumatic events and get them stuff. And stay tuned, because I'm telling you, there is some amazing stuff that's coming out of this. I'll tease you all with like crisis kits, and we've developed a new logo around these kits. We've worked with Jerry Moe, who is one of the best humans alive as well, and does great work. He has been helping us with some of this that we are producing. So I want to thank Bobby and put that on your guys' radar. The other one that we're working on right now is with Tabitha Curtis in the great state of Tennessee. Tabitha has a vision, and when Tabitha has a vision, we all follow. You can laugh, Tabitha, that is the truth. Tabitha had a vision that she wants to do like a simulation training around drug endangered children, and Tabitha got a grant on it. And stay tuned, because it's coming. National DEC is working in partnership with Tabitha and her teams to create a simulation type training from the eyes of a child, right? Through the eyes of a child simulation training, that we can try to capture all this stuff that happens in these children's lives through some simulation type training. Tabitha, anything you would like to add to that? Or Bobby, anything you would like to add around the Connect Tribe one? Tabitha?
I would just like to say we are so excited about this Through the Eyes of a Child simulation. And Rebecca, I think once we get this up and going, this would definitely be something that you would be interested in and bringing to Indiana, especially about bringing those multidisciplines working together and identifying resources for the children and the families.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tabitha. Bobby, anything you want to add? I know you're busy and I put you on the spot.
That's okay, Eric. I'm just, we're waiting for our school district of 42 schools to get back to us so we can go in there and provide our DEC training to all the teachers and everything. So that's on our radar. That's supposed to be starting tomorrow, sometime tomorrow through March, the first week of March. So we're super excited. I'm heading off to a DEC Alliance advocacy meeting in just a few minutes to compare all of the resources in our community with other entities that we work with for our MDT, just to make sure we're covering all the different bases and we're not leaving any resource or supports out of it when we approach people for our DEC calls.
I love that, Bobby. And what Bobby did tell you, and I didn't tell you, these ladies in this group are providing up to 150 gatherings and activities for the youth throughout the year in the state of Alaska that is funded as part of this OJJDP grant. It's bringing tribal, non-tribal members together to create and help with that prevention model, to understand what's going on. And then the unique part is we are using some of the stuff that they do at these activities that are going to be then reused into our crisis bags that are being developed by the children.
And Rebecca, I would love to somehow get you up here to speak some way, somehow. So we'll have to get that one figured out.
We'll make that connection for you, Bobby. Anything else? I know we're down to like 2 minutes left. Anything else that anybody else would like to add? We just were trying to highlight that National DEC is trying to move our mission forward and move new ideas and creativity forward. And nobody in this world can do this without each other. We all have to collaborate together. And if you have an idea, you have a mission, you have something you want to try, don't be scared to reach out to us. We'll try anything, as long as it's for the children in the best interest of them. Without that, if nobody, go ahead, Becky.
I'll say thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
All right, Jerry Mo, you got any good words of advice before we leave today? You always got something to say, don't you? Give me a final comment for the day.
Strength in numbers. When we work together across disciplines, that's how we make the biggest impact.
Amen,
so let's
brother.
just all do our part, but together, that's the key.
You are my favorite. With that, we're going to let you guys go. Have a great day and take care. Thank you so much.